Hey everybody, it's Ian the Off Kilter Crafter. I hope you're having a great day today. We are trucking along with Piazza. We are already on clue number 3, and I'm really loving how this colorway is coming together so far. I can't wait to see what this clue is going to look like when we're all said and done with. So let's go ahead and get started with clue number 3. All right, let's go ahead and open up our clue packet. I have my clue packet 3. I have, of course, have my color guide for San Marco, and I have my instructions for the large San Marco Piazza quilt. I'm going to go ahead and open up the pieces and take a look at what's inside. I'm already looking over at what we're going to be making today, and I am so excited for today's clue. I think it's going to look really, really cool when it's all said and done with. So let's go ahead and open this up and take a look at what fabric we have included in Clue Packet 3. Okay, included in Clue Packet 3 for the large Piazza quilt, we have 4 small triangles of A fabric. We have 8 small triangles of B fabric. We have 4 small triangles of C fabric. We have 8 small triangles of D fabric. And we have 4 small triangles of E fabric. I think that's every single fabric. A, B, C, D, E. Yep. We don't have F in the small triangles. Next up, we have 4 small squares. Medium-sized squares? Small squares. I don't know. We have the... Sorry, I'm tickling myself, and that just, I don't know why that makes my funny bone tickle. But anyways, we have 4 squares of the C fabric. We have 4 larger triangles of D fabric. We have 1 square of fabric F. And last but certainly not least, we have 4 these are the largest triangles in this pack. We have 4 large triangles of B fabric. I think this pack literally has every single fabric in it, which it's a rarity when that happens, when we get all the fabrics in one package. But guess what? It happened on this one, and this is going to be so exciting to put this together. All right. I'm going to go ahead and take all these pieces, put them on the table next to me, and we'll go ahead and start off with our first step. Okay, starting off with step number 1, this is making section 3A, and we're going to be making 4 of section 3A, and the instructions tell us how to make all 4 at the same time. We're starting off with step number 1. It says to join a small triangle of A to a small triangle of B, and we're going to make 4 of these, and we'll set them aside when we're all done, but we're just going to put them together just like this. I can't even tell you how many times we've done half square triangles during any of the puzzle mystery quilts, so y'all know how to do this, but we're just going to put A and B together, and we're going to make 4 of them, so don't get crazy. There's only 4 of fabric A, but you have more of fabric B, so just keep that in mind. Don't go hog wild, but we'll go ahead and make all 4 of these, and I'll come back when it's time to press them out. All right, I've gone ahead and sewn all 4 together. Remember, as you're putting this through the sewing machine, be very careful not to stretch out the fabric. I made that mistake back on Sparkle and Shine, and so some of my half square triangles didn't quite line up like they should have. Completely my fault because I stretched them out, but it worked out in the end. There was not a big deal, but it just makes it so much easier whenever you don't stretch out that bias whenever you're sewing this seam together. And again, I like to use my trick of going up and then over in order to press them out. It really seems to help keep that stretch to a minimum. All right, we have all 4. Remember, if you're doing San Marco colorway, that your fabric A is very tone on tone. It is hard to see that design sometimes, so really pay attention and make sure you're sewing on the correct side of the fabric. All right, so there we go. We have those 4. It says to set them aside, so I'm going to go ahead and stack them up. We're going to send them off to the side, and we'll move on to step 2. All right, moving on to step 2, it says we're going to join a small triangle of B to a small triangle of D. I had to really pay attention and make sure I knew which fabrics I was grabbing, but we're going to do B and D together. We're going to do the same thing that we just did in step number 1, but with fabrics B and D. Oh, and by the way, we pressed towards our A fabric. Going back to step 1, we pressed towards our A fabric. So now we're going to put these two together. We're going to make 4 of them. Again, don't go hog wild and just start sewing, although you only have 4 of your B fabric, so it shouldn't be too crazy. But we're just going to put them together just like this. We're going to make 4 of them, and we'll come back when it's time to press it out. All right, I have gone ahead and sewn all those together, and I'm pressing them out. My B fabric was I don't remember if it was it was my D fabric. My D fabric was a little wobbly. And so I think these half square triangles are a little wobbly, but that's okay. All right, so there we go. We've pressed towards our B fabric. So now we have 4 that look like this. We're going to go ahead and move on to step number 3. Okay, moving on to step number 3, it says to join step 1 unit to the left of a step 2 unit, and we're going to make 4 of these and set them aside. So basically we're just lining up our B fabric in a diagonal line here, and we're going to sew all 4 of these together just like this. It sounds like we're going to set them off to the side because we've got some more to do. And so I'm going to go ahead and sew all 4 together, and I'll come back when it's time to press it all out. All right, I have sewn all 4 of those together, and now we're pressing towards our AB half square triangle. And you might see over here that there's a little bit of what looks like some extra, like you see right here, this white doesn't reach all the way, or the white kind of doesn't go all the way up into the corner. Don't freak out at that. That is actually really a good thing, because we want to make sure that this is at our 1/4 inch length, right? So whenever we sew our next pieces together, it should land right where that point is. So don't freak out if you see extra material there and think, oh no, I didn't get this exactly right. It's actually, you did get it right. And this is going to help us as we continue with our moving forward with our blocks. So we're going to go ahead and set these aside. I've pressed them towards my AB half square triangle. It's time to set these off to the side and move on to step number 4. Okay, moving on to our next step, step number 4, it says to join a small triangle of E to a small triangle of D, and we're going to make 4 of these. So we should have 4 of both of these fabrics, so we won't need to freak out about going hog wild, but we're just going to put these together just like we've been doing. I'm going to go ahead and take them over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to make all 4, and I'll come back when it's time to press it out. All right, I've sewn all 4 of those together. I'm now pressing towards my E fabric. And once we do that, we'll move on to our next step. Look how pretty that is. I love this colorway. It's just so beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and move on to step number 5. Okay, moving on to step number 5, it says to join a square of C to the right of step 4 unit, and we're going to make 4 of these. So we're just going to put these 2 squares together just like this, and super easy. I'm going to go ahead and take it over to my sewing machine, and I'll come back when it's time to press all these out. Okay, I have sewn all 4 of those together. We're going to press towards our C square, our C fabric, just like so. And there are all 4 of those put together. So let's go ahead and move on to step number 6. Okay, moving on to step number 6, it says to join step 3 unit above a step 5 unit. And we're going to make 4 of these, and that will bring us to the end of section 3A when we put all of these together. Remember how I said we have that little extra fabric that's going to go into our 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to try and just hit that whenever I am sewing these together. I'm going to try and hit that 1/4 inch mark right where those 2 lines of sewing cross. I'm going to try and get my needle right in there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this over to my sewing machine, and I will come back when it's time to press it all out. Okay, I have sewn those together. I watched really carefully for those points, and honestly, I am super happy with how my points came out. They were almost perfect. I will never hit pure perfection, especially on all 4, but I am like this one right here, I think is probably the best one, and I really feel very accomplished with that. All right, so there's all 4 of them. Remember, we're pressing towards our EDC, so press basically down towards that, and that's all we're going to do. We're going to label these as section 3A or clue 3A, whichever one works for you, and we're going to set this aside and we're going to move on to section 3B. Okay, moving on to section 3B, we'll be making a single section of 3B unit. I wonder, I'm just going to put a hypothesis out there, I wonder if this is not going to be the center of our quilt. I don't know, that's just a prediction. I could be completely wrong. Who knows? We may get some more of these in future clues, and obviously that wouldn't be the center. But I'm just putting it out there as my hypothesis that we may be putting together the center of our quilt right now. But anyways, we're going to join a small triangle of C to the top left and bottom. Oh, first of all, I gotta like turn this to the correct angle. There we go. I was getting a little ahead of myself there. All right, so we're going to attach a triangle of C to the top left and bottom right of a square of F. By the way, love this F fabric, favorite fabric in this collection. And then once we finish that, then we're going to join a small triangle of C to the top right and bottom left. So we're going to make one of these and we're going to do that. Now I have found a very helpful tip from Tula Pink, and because it may be a little hard to figure out exactly where this lands, and to me it's kind of difficult, but Tula Pink recently did a video where she showed how easy it is to put these on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold my square, and I'm going to give it a quick little press just like this, and that's going to give me my center line. And I'm going to take my C fabric and I'm actually going to fold it the opposite way. So did you see that I folded right side to give me a crease in the middle? Now I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it the opposite way. So I'm going to do it so that my wrong sides are together, and I'm going to find the center and I'm going to give it a little press. So now I have this nice little mark that I can use, and they nest together, and that gives me the center of both. And now I can sew it right across there, knowing that both my triangle and my square are centered as best as they possibly can be, and I can get a better kind of more accuracy, I guess, is the word that I'm looking for. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and do that to the other one as well. So wrong sides are touching. I'm going to finger press, give myself a little press, and then I'm going to lay that into the groove. And now I have my 2 pieces ready to go. I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew these on. I'm going to do the exact same thing, so I'll come back whenever it's time to put these next 2 on. Okay, I've sewn on my 2 triangles, and remember we're sewing at 1/4 inch, so you're actually going to try and aim for the corner of that triangle and go all the way across. You know, it's not going to be perfect. Mine is never perfect, but I went ahead and did that, and now I'm going to press both of these out. We're pressing outwards from the center of our square. And I'm also going to try and remove that crease that I put in there, so that way I can get ready to crease it the other way. All right, so I have pressed this out so that it is now like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and match up my square again. I'm going to aim for the square as my guide. I'm not going to look at the triangles because the triangles could be a little bit off from each other. So I'm going to try and get this square lined up and use the square as my guide. Okay, I've gotten it pretty close. It may not be exactly, but it's pretty close. So here I have my center line again. I'm going to do the same thing to my triangles, but remember we're going to go to the wrong side of the fabric. So match up your wrong sides and do a little finger press. All right, so I've gotten those all lined up how I want them. I'm going to put them in the sewing machine or put them through the sewing machine or sew them or however you want to say that. And I'll come back when it's time to press it out. All right, there we go. I have done that and now it's time to press those two out. We're going to again press away from the center. And if it is somewhat done correctly, you should have an almost perfect square. Mine is not 100%, but it is sure darn close for what I like. So it's your edges should line up pretty well, which mine do. There's a little overlap in a few places, but it's not too crazy. I'm actually really happy with that. So let's go ahead and move on to step number 2. Okay, moving on to step number 2, it says to join a D to the top left and bottom right of step number 1. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on just like this, and for the most part they line up pretty close. I can kind of eyeball this. I'm not going to do the trick that I did because for the most part it lines up pretty well, so I don't have to worry too much about it. So I'll put on my top left and my bottom right. I'll go ahead and press that. We're going to press out towards our D fabric. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put on the next two on the top right and bottom left, and I'll press those as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this all at once and come back when it's time to press the last two out. But you want something that looks like this whenever you're done. Okay, I've sewn that all together and I'm now again pressing out from the center of my block towards the edges. So now we have something that looks like this. I'm trying to make it like the diagram. There we go. All right, so now we're going to move on to step number 3. All right, we're going to do the same thing that we did in step 1 and step 2 is we're going to start off on our top right, or excuse me, top left and bottom right. We're going to be adding on our fabric B, which is our largest triangles in this one. And I am going to try and do the trick where I'm able to hopefully get them all lined up. Although I'm looking and it looks like my edge points are lining up pretty nicely. So I'm going to kind of experiment and see what works best and see if I can get them to line up nicely. But that's what we're going to be doing next. And then after we sew those on, we press them out from the center. And then we're going to grab our next two large B triangles and we're going to put them on like so. We'll do the bottom left and the top right and it'll look like this. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on this and I'll come back when I'm pressing out the last two. All right, I have sewn the last of my sides on. Is this perfect? Absolutely not. Is it good enough? Yes, it is. And I think it looks pretty cool if you ask me. So that is what we are left with when it's all said. Wait, did I get that the right way? Let's see, we got our F diamond. Yes, okay, so this block kind of gives my head a little bit of like craziness because I'm like, wait, which way does it go? All right, so it goes like this. This is what we have for our step 3. When it's all said and done, this is going to be labeled as either section 3B or clue 3B, whichever way you want to put that. But we are done, and we're done with this whole package. So there we go. We've got our section 3A complete and our section 3B complete, and now it is time to wait another month for our clue number 4 to come in, and we'll go ahead and put that together when it comes in the mail.